I remember the first time I was teaching my son how to play baseball. We picked up a bat and he just kind of swung it around. I had to show him the right way to hold it off of his shoulders, the stance. He would still face me fully, and I had to teach him how to stand to the side. The same thing when it came to throwing, and using a glove was especially hard. The point is that when you are learning something new, there are a lot of moving parts and it's easy to make mistakes. Mistakes are often how we learn, but there are a lot of mistakes that could be prevented if we do a little extra research or if we listen to those who came before us. Now, earlier on this channel, I released lessons I learned from 13 years and 500 episodes of podcasting. And that got me thinking, what are the most common mistakes I, as a podcast coach, see people making? Well, my friends, I've got 5 of them for you today, so let's dive into it. Hey, everybody, my name's Joe Casabona. I'm the evangelist here at RSS.com. I've also been podcasting for 13 years, and I am a podcast coach, so I help other podcasters launch, grow, and monetize their podcasts. These are the 5 mistakes that I see podcasters make the most often. Let's get into it. So, number 1 starts right at the beginning. When you're planning your podcast, if you say you're for everyone, you're making a huge mistake. And I understand why people do this. It's because, well, if I say for everybody and I have mass appeal, then more people will listen. But that couldn't be further from the truth. That would be, if we're going to stick with the baseball analogy, like putting a team in the middle of the country where there's a really low population and saying, I'm for the entire country. Nobody is going to go see those baseball games because they are hard to get to and you can't travel to them. And as a result, it's going to be hard for a fan base to build because no one is watching the games. The same thing goes for your podcast. Instead of trying to put yourself in the middle of everything and saying, I'm for everybody, pick a side. Pick an audience, pick a spiky point of view, make a promise to your audience and deliver on that promise. It's one thing to say, I am a cooking podcast. It's another thing to say, I am a cooking podcast for families with 3 or more kids and 2 working parents. Vastly different types of content, and the ones who relate to the second podcast are going to listen and tell all of their friends who probably also have kids about that podcast. Whereas if you just say you're a cooking podcast, what makes you different from every other cooking podcast out there? So, number 1, saying you're for everyone. Pick an audience, make a promise to them, and deliver on that promise. Be specific. Number 2 is not being everywhere. When I first started podcasting, it was pretty much be on Apple Podcasts and your show will filter to every other app. But today there's Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, which is growing quickly and by some accounts is actually currently the biggest podcast listening app, at least in the United States. There are lots of bespoke apps, and every day it seems like more and more services are trying to get into the podcast game. And you want to make sure you are wherever people want to listen. You want to make it as convenient as possible for people to listen to your podcast. Because if you don't, there's enough competition out there that people are just going to give up and go somewhere else. And luckily, RSS.com makes it as easy as possible for you to be everywhere. We will auto submit your show to as many places as we can. Otherwise, we will guide you through submissions. Check out our videos on the YouTube channel to see exactly how to do that. And then we give you your RSS feed so you can manually submit your show. We even have YouTube integration using our PodViz technology, so you get a little bit more of an engaging video than what you would otherwise get if you're not shooting video for your podcast. So, absolutely, one of the biggest mistakes I see is that people are not trying to be everywhere. They're basically saying, well, I'm in Apple Podcasts and Spotify, and that's good enough. It's not good enough. Number 3, once you have a clear promise, once your show is everywhere, we want our listeners to take action. And the third biggest mistake I see is there's no clear call to action. You've probably listened to a podcast, maybe you've done this yourself, I certainly have, where you say something like, be sure to check out the show notes and share this with a friend and write into our feedback form and rate us in iTunes and review us on Spotify. And by the way, join our mailing list, right? That is too many things. Check out our sponsors is another one, right? That is too many things. And when you have somebody, especially who's not really paying attention, they're not going to know what action they should take. So what do you do instead? You have one clear call to action. Further, you repeat that call to action in the beginning, middle, and at the end of your show. Don't just wait till the end where people have already left. Do a cold open or a quick win where you tell them kind of what they're going to get and the biggest takeaway, and then say, by the way, if you want more of this, and then give them your call to action. Mention it somewhere in the middle where it's relevant, and then mention it at the end. Maybe at the end you can have a couple, but make sure to repeat your main call to action, the one that you want people to do the most. They're going to have to hear it multiple times, and it's going to have to be super duper easy for them to take action. Number 4 is not having transcripts. Again, when I first started, transcripts were not really a big thing. You could do them, but they were expensive and not a lot of people were saying we needed them, except for people in the accessibility community where they literally needed the transcripts if they wanted to consume our podcasts. Not only is it easier than ever to get transcripts today, but RSS.com will actually give them to you for free on any paid plan. So when you publish a podcast episode, we have a transcript button. We'll automatically generate these transcripts for you and associate them with your podcast, and they integrate perfectly into your RSS.com website for your show. So really today, there is no excuse not to have transcripts. But on top of the argument for accessibility for your podcast, there are a lot of other reasons why you'd want to have transcripts. One, it makes it easier for listeners to go back and find something that they heard later by just searching in the transcript. There are SEO benefits and other search benefits by having the full text of your podcast episode on a website. And you can take that transcript and use it as the basis for repurposing into a blog post or a newsletter. So you are, especially today, making a big mistake by not having transcripts for your podcast. And finally, the 5th most common mistake I see new podcasters make when they launch is not thinking of monetization sooner. I hear this, I'm just going to get launched and figure out how to monetize later. Or once I get to a certain number of downloads, sponsors will come to me. And if you are serious about your podcast and you want it to be an important part of how you make money, whether it's part of your business or just a side hustle, you want to be thinking about this as early as possible. Nobody opens up a retail store and says, I'll just open up and I'll figure out how to make money later. They have a business plan in place to make money over a certain amount of time. When you are starting your podcast, I would encourage you to think about how it's going to make money from the outset, even if you know it's not going to make money from the outset. Don't hear what I'm not saying. I'm not saying your podcast has to be profitable on day one. I'm saying you should have a plan to make money starting on day one. And we make this really easy over at RSS.com as well. We have paid ads, so that's programmatic ads inserted dynamically. And as long as you have a minimally active show, you qualify for paid ads on our paid account. We have code ADX, which makes it easier to get affiliate deals for your podcast. You can make money through Apple Podcast subscriptions. And then we also have donations and funding and value for value. So there are a few methods built into RSS.com to make it as easy as possible for you to make money from the beginning. This will also give you some ideas for how to make money with your podcast at the beginning or towards the beginning. So you're not just sitting there hoping that sponsors are going to reach out to you. Okay, now I do have a bonus for you. This is another huge mistake I see, and it's related to really a lot of what we've talked about. Kind of all 5 of our mistakes can culminate in this, not having an email list, right? Because if you have a newsletter, you got to make a promise to somebody. You need to have a clear call to action to get people to your mailing list. You can use the transcripts to send out to your newsletter so that they know what the show is about or the episode is about. And the newsletter gives you another avenue for monetization. And it gives you another distribution channel. So all 5 mistakes rolled into one. Have an email list. Use whatever email service provider you think is best. I am a Kit user. I like Kit a lot, but there's also Beehive and Substack and lots of other email service providers out there. And most of them offer a free account to start. One of the things that I like about Kit is that it has RSS feed integration. So we can give it our RSS feed and then it'll automatically send out a new email to our list whenever a new episode is published. So let's run through these common mistakes really quick. Number 1, saying you're for everybody. Pick a side, make a promise, deliver for that specific audience. Not being everywhere. You can't just be on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. You need to be everywhere people are listening to podcasts. Our distribution page over at rss.com gives you a great list for where your show should be. No clear call to action. Make sure that you have one action you want your listeners to take and repeat that call to action in the beginning, towards the middle, and at the end of your episode so that you really encourage and entice your listeners to take that action. Not having transcripts. There are a lot of benefits for transcripts, including accessibility, search engine optimization, and repurposing. RSS.com will automatically generate transcripts for you on any paid account. And not thinking about monetization sooner. Don't just launch your show and hope it's going to make money. Have a plan for how it's going to make money from the outset. At rss.com, we give you a number of ways to make money with your podcast from the outset. And that bonus, not having an email list. Create an email list. I would make that my call to action on my podcast if I was starting today. And you know that's true because I promote my mailing list in my YouTube videos and over in my podcast as well. But that's it for this video. Thanks so much for watching. What's a common mistake that you see or a mistake that you've made in the past that you're going to fix thanks to this video? Leave a comment below. Be sure to like and subscribe. And until next time, I'll see you out there.